Let's talk about religion.
Okay.
Um, you mentioned something earlier about, people being Christian and all that. Are you a religious, God-fearing man?
I am a God-fearing man for sure. I don't
Hmm.
know if I'd consider myself religious or not. I mean, I'm Jewish and I grew up not religious at all. And
Okay.
then I considered myself an atheist for many years. And then that kind of well, I think maybe it was a little bit before my wife got pregnant that I started having like, I was kind of a militant atheist for
Mm.
a while. Like, I was like, I really liked the new atheists when I was, like, young, in my early 20s. I liked Bill Maher, and I liked, Sam Harris, and I liked Christopher Hitchens and all those guys, and that really like, when I was in my early 20s, that really resonated with me. I was like I thought this was, like, a slam dunk strong argument, like, "Yeah, you can't prove any of this stuff. It's just based on faith, so why would you" you know? And what started to slowly chip away at that for me was that I started to notice that, a largely disproportionate amount of the best people I had ever met were Christians.
Mm.
And it wasn't like a thing right away, but I was like, "Man, that is" I am noticing that these like, a lot of these really good people who I've met, who I really admire, are all Christians. And, and that was just kind of in the back of my mind. And then, it was a pretty when my wife had my daughter, the day she delivered, there was, that really was the day that I found God. And
Mm.
uh, um, it
Wow.
you know, it look, I'll tell you so here's what happened, right? More or less, this is the story. So I was, my wife was, as you know, you have kids, and I was really, it's like a thing. When you're gonna have your first kid, you're like, "Man, I'm gonna be a father." This is in your mind. Your wife's pregnant. You're excited for this for so long, and then it finally happens, and it's the day, and she's gonna deliver, and I'm thinking about all of these kind of bigger things, and, uh there at one point they were giving my wife an epidural and they asked me to leave the room. That was the anesthesiologist was like, "Hey, we want you to leave because when we give the epidural, it's like if she moves one little square inch, it can
Yeah.
paralyze her. It's like a whole thing, and we just rather the husband not be here for this." So
Right.
it's like, "Okay," and I leave the room, and I've never felt so helpless in my life. Like you leave and you're just trusting some guy who you never met to do this the right way. And it just I was in this like lobby in the maternity ward of Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City. And I'm sitting there just all of a sudden I'm like, man, this could go bad.
Mm.
And I'm, like, so excited for this moment of, like, I'm gonna have a baby, and I love my wife, and we're gonna go and start this family, and it just started dawning on me that I could lose everything, like,
Mm.
right now, that this could all and almost immediately, like, in this hospital lobby, I mean, I was just standing there, but inside I had dropped to my knees with my hands clasped together, and I was talking to God. And, like, I mean, I wasn't physically, but mentally, that's where
Yeah.
I was. And I went, "Dear God, please make sure my wife and baby are okay, and if you do this, I will do X, Y, and Z, and I will be a better person, and I will do all of this." And it was just kind of a thing. Like, I just, like, literally begged God and promised to do all of these things, and then whatever, a few minutes later, it was fine, and I went back in the room, and then my wife had a complicated pregnancy, so there were, like, 4 or 5 more times that day that I talked to God. That was and then it was almost like after that was over, a few days later, I was, like, looking back at that, and I was like, "Man, what the fuck was that?" Like, that was kind of interesting that as somebody who wasn't particularly religious, that I right away, when things got dicey, not only did I immediately talk to God, but I immediately knew what God wanted from me and what I would tell him I would do for him, and all of them were just good things, like be a better person, be a good father, be better to my friends, stop doing this thing I shouldn't be doing, stop doing that thing, and I just couldn't shake that afterward. I couldn't shake that it was like there was something in me, so deep in me, that when the shit really hit the fan, I spoke directly to God, and ever since then, I've just been a believer. And I don't know exactly what that means. I don't belong to a church or a synagogue or any, but I really believe that that I need to do certain things, that I need to be good to my wife and my daughter, and that there is a creator, there's someone up there who is, like in charge of this whole thing, and that we can, kind of serve. So
Mm.
that's I don't know, I don't really have any more than that, but that was kind of my story briefly, and that's where I'm at now.